All right. Hey, so this is Prepared Militant Chef in Fatty West Side. We decided to get together on a Zoom call and talk gear because if you talk tactics, 20 people watch. If you talk gear, 3 million people will watch and tell you how you're wrong.
Absolutely.
So, disclaimer that I just want to throw out there before we get too started. Um, I assume if you're watching this, you're like a prepper or militia or 2A pro, um, and you're like, the military, they do. They, first of all, no, 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 no. I was in the military, um, and what do they call it? I was issued taps, and I took my taps and I put it under my rack. And then when I went to a new post, I got the taps from underneath the rack and I turned it back in the plastic because nobody uses that garbage. And if you do, I'm sorry. If your command sucks, I'm sorry. Um, but here's the deal: like taps is fine if that's what you got. Um, flicks are fine if that's what you got. However, like I got paid to do this, and now I'm doing this on my day off because it's important to me to keep these skills. So regardless of what setup you think that you should have, put it on and go to where you think you're gonna go. Like, so I live in Nowhereville on purpose. So I'm in Nowhereville on purpose, wearing best rig and bag. I don't wear plates because there's mountains and mountains and plate carriers suck. Um, so that's my disclaimer, right? Use your gear, but like don't don't jerk off to pictures of gear. Like it's weird, especially if I'm in the picture. You don't have my consent. Um, now that I've made this completely awkward, Fatty,
Yeah, so I was not in the military. I'm just the average blue collar, if that's even a thing anymore, thanks to current administration trying to get rid of us. I'm just your average blue collar guy that's also simultaneously on a health journey to lose 75 pounds and reverse type 2 because I don't want to be a burden for my family and I'd like to actually be around for them, especially if Tiawaki does happen. Uh, you know, I need to be able to take care of them. So I'm trying to take care of myself. And he kind of hit me in the heart a little bit with the taps because the taps was the second rig I ever got. It's actually the one that I brought out to show because it was the easiest. I also used the taps heavily modified into a split chest rig, which is probably my most favorite rig that I have outside of my LBE. So quick rundown for me.
that's another thing. Like, don't be afraid to modify your gear, right? So, um, this is a you it's from UR Tactical. It's an ops enhanced chest rig. It's if you're watching Risky Krisky, you
I,
may have
I
seen this rig.
actually also DJ the Metalhead Mercenary also runs that one. I believe he runs it for his 308. I know
Okay.
Risky Krisky does too, but I hear
Yeah.
good things about those, and that was actually the one on my list for when I get a 308 to look at.
Um, I'm not sure how he's running 308s. If I guess he's just running one. But this fit, this fits two 5.56s in each pouch, eight total. But like I got this for Christmas, and by New Year's it had already been like beginning the modification process. Um, but like I'm gonna use the heck out of this thing. I might break it, get a second one, do all the mods to it immediately, and like that's how this stuff works, right? I did um I did 4 combat deployments and I had 3 different kits. And that's another thing I wanted to hit on. If you have 130 kits, but you haven't gone to a class, somebody's gonna have your 130 kits when they kill you.
Loot drop.
Dude, it's like I like talking about gear because it's something I know, but I hate talking about gear because it's like, how much food do you have? If you have more chest rigs than you do cans of food, I hope that your children can process nylon in their stomach.
The thing about the food is what, see, so when we start talking about SHTF and Tiawaki and a world without rule of law, and you got to have a year and a half's worth of food per person and 7 gallons of water per person a day and all this stuff, it gets really overwhelming for people, especially if you're just getting into this. It gets super overwhelming. But here's the thing about the food, guys, that like, you know, everyone's feeling the pinch of inflation right now,
Hmm.
especially me. Grocery bills are high, but what I do every week that I put in my grocery order, I get a case of water, I get 5 cans of this week I got green beans and 5 cans of peas, and then I get like a bag of flour, a bag of sugar, a bag of brown rice, spend about an extra $25 a week. And all that stuff just goes into the pantry. You don't have to go out and buy bulk right away. It would be great if you can. But if you just add on that extra 5, 10, $15 a week to what you're already spending, on top of what you're already going to be consuming, that is a great way to start stocking up. It's slow, but it's a great way to start stocking. Just remember, you don't have to do everything all at once. You can take it in little bite-sized pieces. But like you said, just as much as having the gear and the ammo and the guns is important, having the food and the water is super important. Knowing how to grow your own food and obtaining your own water is super important because without one, the other one is useless.
And that's like, once again, you have to go use it, right? So, I'm a chef, right? Chef Angry is not like a name, it's a title. Um, but like I went to garden and the dirt kicked my ass this year, right? So you got to get out and you got to go do those things because it's just like, I didn't get dropped in Afghanistan. I got dropped at Fort Benning. I got dropped in a lot of places, but a war zone wasn't one. Like we walked in, we knew what was going on, we had plans, right? And so, like, if you're in the preparedness mindset, you can't be lazy because you have to be, like, in a lot of ways, you have to be, you know, a basically trained infantryman and somebody that can cook from scratch and somebody that can garden and somebody that can deal with all the drama. Cause, like, yeah, it's just, it's a lot of work to be prepared. It really is. But when you go hike, it relieves some of that stress, uh, and you get ready at the same time. So let's talk about gear real quick,
All
for a
right.
little bit. All right, so what I got going on, I don't typically run plates. Um, I have this chest rig that I can throw over plates. I know a lot of people don't like that, but when you are dealing with not being in the military anymore, you have a budget, and that budget gets pretty tight. So instead of having two rigs, I have one with plates that are removable, right? And that's kind of how I run that system. But one thing I see a lot of guys do is they hop on bandwagons. When they hop on bandwagons, they throw equipment out. And what I carry on my chest right now is pretty much what I carried my second, third, and fourth deployment. That's gonna be 8 mags. I would go nine, except to go nine, you're typically gonna go 3x3. And this is 4x2, and 3x3 is just gonna push me a little too off, little too much off the ground to be comfortable. And you're like, well, you're a war fighter. Don't be comfortable. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, sorry, but you're an idiot if you like. You got to be comfortable.
When it's time to hug the ground to escape from rounds flying overhead, the closer you can get to the ground, the better you're going to be. It
Yeah,
might not happen often, but you'll appreciate having that 4x2 versus that 3x3 whenever that time comes.
especially if you have plates on.
Yeah.
So 8 mags. Um, this let me step back just a little bit. This has like 2 pistol mags. I'm gonna hurt some of your feelings. Um, I don't believe it's necessary. If you want to carry a pistol, that's fine. I don't believe it's necessary to carry a pistol if you're moving in an element with multiple people. Um, in the event that your weapon goes down, yada yada. And if I'm carrying a pistol, that adds weight, ammo, weight, or I can just carry rifle ammo, and that's how I swing it. So I've got 8 here. Um, this pocket I have just a regular flashlight. Um, I'm not super into the reflective surfaces stuff. Like my mentality on like your watch being reflective is if they've gotten that close, you've messed up. So here, and I do my bag a little weird because just the way that all of this interacts, and that's another thing. Get out here, hike. Like don't even like you don't have to carry a rifle. If you want to, you can. It's better. Um, but right here, where my pack and my rig interface, I have my IFAK, so I can still get to it. I get to it easier with the bag off. And that's a bare fat, but it's in the ops. It's in the chest rigs like pull off pouch. Over here, multi tool and lighter. The lighter's not in there because I'm gonna start fires. The lighter's in there in case I'm in like a horrible situation. Because you don't light fires in the field unless you're lighting the field on fire. But anyways, um, the lighter and multi tool, and then here is just like honestly, it's a lot of food. It's maps. It's compasses. That's kind of my catch-all. Um, I also have an extra tourniquet. So IFAK has a tourniquet. I have a tourniquet here. And then I have 2 civilian smokes. I carry two because 2 civilian smokes is probably 3/4 of one military smoke. Just kind of the way it is. In the bag, I have another 9 mags, right? So like one thing I see dudes doing is like they'll carry 3 mags, but NVGs or this thing or that thing, and it's like, wait, time out. If you haven't been in a firefight, whatever you think you're gonna shoot, like however many rounds you think you're gonna shoot, quadruple it, right? So I'm walking in.
Suppressive fire eats up ammo faster than people think. I mean, if you just go out to the range and you're like, you start shooting and all of a sudden you end up mag dumping just because it's fun. Now have someone shooting back at you and you're trying to keep them down so you and your buddies can move.
Yep.
Suppressive fire chews up ammo.
Yeah. So 8 mags. There's probably if I'm working hard, there's probably 2.5 days of food. Like between this pouch and the bag, there's probably 2.5 days of food. There's a what I call a whisper stove. I use the Coleman version because it works just fine. All of the that Coleman, I think it's like the Peak 21. It interfaces with all of the canisters, right? So all the different canisters interface with that. It interfaces with all of them, which isn't that common. Once again, Battlefield pickups in case, right? It's also cheap. A little cook cup, not a, like just like a little 1 pint cook cup, with some salt and pepper and stuff in there because I am a chef. The food, I've already said that. Another IFAK, a rain jacket, and then some space for, climate conditions or metal or whatever, that sort of thing. Cover it with a pack. I've also got a 3 liter water bladder and then two 1 liters on the side. I'm probably gonna modify this chest rig somehow. We're not really sure how, but I want to add. We're thinking we're gonna rip the webbing off here, drop some Velcro, and then I can take my catch-all, put it
A
on a
dangler.
dangler, yeah, and then turn this into a canteen pouch because you just want water, right? Um, because you
That-
don't like this is by the way, this is one day, right? So I've
right.
got 5 liters of water and 2.5 days of food, but it's a 1 day pack. Why is that? When you are in Afghanistan and you get left for 24 hours, like they forget about you for 24 hours, your mentality changes like that, right? Luckily, it didn't happen to me for the first time in Afghanistan. It happened to me for the first time. Was it JBLM? They left our asses. They forgot about the scout platoon. That was super fun. Um, so yeah, just whatever you think you're gonna do, have more, right? If you think you're gonna, I'm in the middle of nowhere and there's a guy just running, which is fine. Um, but morning. Um, oh, he's got a chest rig on too. Whatever you think you're gonna do, carry more and be prepared to go further,
Two is
right?
one and one is none.
Yeah, but like I've got 18 mags, and I'm like, how do I carry more? Because like I think a lot of dudes have this fantasy that they're gonna do battlefield pickups on everything. So like, first of all, if you get in a gunfight and you win, they've depleted some of their stuff. Like that's one thing people don't think about. The other thing, and we all the time, was enemy forces would drag off the dead and their equipment. So like there have been gunfights where we knew we killed 30 people and we found three and one AK.
Yeah, because they got to take their
So
stuff
like
back because they need it too.
yeah. And so like if you think you're gonna battlefield pickup all the time, you might battlefield pick up like a smoke grenade. You might battlefield pick up a Glock. But like if you think that and you look, buy the best equipment you can. And if the best equipment you can is a Palmetto State Armory, run it. Run it. You probably won't outshoot it, and you probably will never permanently break it. Um, but yeah, run it. Seriously. But if your plan is to buy a Palmetto State, shoot somebody with a Daniel Defense, and take their Daniel Defense, what about his brother that's going to shoot you? What about his brother who's just going to grab it and go? Right? Like, what about that? Have you calculated that in your mind yet? How does that affect you? Um, so like whatever you think you're gonna need, you need to take that. Um, and I'm very much aware that there are flaws in my system, but they're flaws I'm willing to deal with because I've dealt with them not only in combat, but here, right? Like this bag is really comfortable, but it's way, way, way more comfortable when it's just a bag. But when you go out here and you hike 10, 15, 20 miles a day, you learn how this stuff interacts and you learn how you want to handle that. And the other thing is like, you don't need 15 kits. You just don't, right? I know legitimately I've worked with a bunch of tier two. I'm fairly certain I've worked with tier one. By the way, if you weren't in the military, nobody's gonna walk up to you and be like, "I'm Delta. Come with me." You're just like, your officer's gonna walk up and go, "Hey guys, we're gonna be QRF for some assets. Get your shit on and get ready for everything to go bad." And you're just like, okay. And then you're with a ranger element, and you're like, "Oh, we're QRF for rangers. That's cool." And they're like, "No, no, you're helping us with another group." And you're like, "Who?" They're like, "We don't know." And it's like, okay, so 375's out here. Those dudes, those dudes do not have unlimited kit. They may have 4 kits, they may have 5 kits, but they don't have 15, 20. So figure out that thing. Like, this works really, really well for about 90% of stuff. It works well for the other 10%. I'm not going to drop $30,000 so that I can have one kit for every scenario. Because if we have to leave, it's not going with me. I'm taking one kit, and I'm taking all the food I can, and my wife. Right? So, like, just think about those things. But seriously, more ammo. Right? Like, taps is cool because it's 6 across. And if I was wearing taps, I would probably throw 2 3 mag shingles on there and do 12. That's how I would handle that situation.
So when I first got my taps, and I went in and like you said, and I think most, well, I say most people, at least half the people who get gear within the first little bit of wearing it, they're all like, how can I make this better? Everyone tinkers was not everyone, but the majority of people will start tinkering with stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I used the Y harness that came with the taps until I got an H harness. This is a Krydex fat strap. So much better. Definitely worth the money. It's like 25, $30 on Amazon. Turns this thing into a beast. I cut off the actually I didn't cut them off. I just stuffed them down in there, but the Velcro things and put on the bungee retention. And I actually did it to run the 6, but because I'm fat still, once I pulled those mags out of the outside too, I couldn't put them back in because the way it bunched back together. So I run 4 and then I run another 4. I have this stripped down right now as my micro IFAC GP. I put canteens on the side. I use the admin pouches. So this will run 8. I can run more than that. Um, but this also, like you, this runs in conjunction with a 24-hour bag, an assault bag, something like that. In that assault pack, I run 9 mags on the back because it has Molly on the outside. So they're right there where I can get to it. I can reach 4 of them or 3 on each side without having to take the pack off should I need to, plus the one in the gun. The food is at least I run 24 hours. Well, I say 24 hours. I could probably run about 36 hours just out of the 24-hour bag. I have a 2.5 liter CamelBak in the 24-hour bag. I have 2 liters on the chest rig. And then if I have my belt, I also have another liter. When I took the second taps and turned it into the split rig, when I initially did it, it was holding like 12 mags. Now it's down to 9 plus the 2 on the belt if I'm wearing the belt, plus the 9 in the backpack. Uh, yeah, I feel the whole battlefield pickup thing. I never really like it's cool in Call of Duty, but like I never to me, I think I'm not saying it's dumb, but you
Mhm.
you can't plan on things that you can't control. So bring stuff with you. If you're able to pick up stuff in Minecraft, then that's great. You're just plussing up your stuff. But don't assume you're going to be able to, because you can't control. That's something that's out of your control. You can't be like, hey, I shot you. Make sure you leave that stuff there. That's for me. Like you said, his brother picks it up, his buddy picks it up. You down 30 zombies in Minecraft or whatever, and you get over there and there's two, and all the stuff's gone, and you're like, what the hell? Well, you're not the only one who needs that equipment and that gear. They need it too. Obviously, they need it worse than you because you just decimated them. So you can't assume that you're going to be able to do that. You can only count, especially in our situation, because we're not backed by a government with a gazillion dollars budget to spend on supplies. We're bringing our own stuff in. You are your resupply.
Yeah. And like, there's so much to address in that comment. We are running out of time, but whatever. Um, I've had, I don't know, I've had a half dozen situations where literally helicopter crews threw ammo out of helicopter doors as they were moving so that we could have more ammo. Um, I don't have a security detail with me. I'm not made of money. Um, I can't afford to have a helicopter fly over and drop me more ammo. I have to carry it. Like honestly, um, this is summertime. So my sleep system is an S-Wax bag, like just the Gore-Tex cover, right? I sleep hot, so like I don't need any of the bags. Um, and wintertime, I'm gonna go to a bigger bag, and I'm just always like, where can I shove more ammo? Where can like I have two IFAKs, and really both of these kits, like the bag and the rig, both do about the same thing. They just do it a little bit differently, or they carry the same thing, just a little bit differently, um, and in a little bit different variety. Um, but man, if I could honestly and truly carry 100 mags and it not break my back, I'd be like, yeah, yeah. And you go, why? Movement under fire, close in and destroy the enemy, right? Like you have to get like sometimes you have to move while one guy's moving, you might drop 30 max. If he has to move 5 6 times, like your taps is empty. With your taps, I'm gonna say maybe get some hard plastic and that'll keep it from crinkling,
Yeah,
right?
the inserts would be great.
Yeah. Um, but like you'd mentioned an assault pack. Everybody I know, well, yeah, that's probably really true. Most of the people I know, um, were in love with the USGI assault pack. Um, I prefer woodland in this area for obvious reasons, but I mean those Molly 2, with the plastic frame, the big rucks, and the assault packs are gold. And if you can find them, you need to buy as many as you can because they are gold.
Yeah,
As
but
far as U.S. Army, what's up?
I was just going to say that we people need to keep in mind that you are living and functioning off the rig, and you're carrying your resupply behind you. So you kind of have to have whatever you need on the rig in the bag to refill it. I would like to carry a couple more mags in my ruck because sometimes I don't have it, depending on the loadout, I don't have enough to refill everything on the rigs. Sure, I do with my taps, but I don't with my LBE. My LBE only carries 6 spares in the butt pack, and I run 10 on the actual rig. So
So
having that pack is vital for your survival.
yeah, but another thing you can do, I don't know what LBV you have. I know that you have the LBV 88, but one of the versions has like little tabs that you can hook a belt into. And man, I would I've been thinking about getting, I don't know how I would associate with this system, which is why I haven't done it yet, but I would get like a Molly belt or even like an Alice belt and put a butt pack in the back and then line that joker with canteens because first of all, I'm small. So like I have a 30-inch waist. So like I don't know, I could probably carry 2 quarts of water and then a canteen pouch will carry 10 mag or a canteen pouch will carry 5 mags. So another 10, like 28 mags in this system if I could put it all together. And think about what I'm saying. I'm talking 28 mags. You need more ammo. Like you need all the ammo you can get your hands on.
I that LBV 88, I just turned it into my rifleman rig with an Alice belt that goes through a Molly,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it's got 4 of the Alice 3 mag pouches on it. And then, like you said, the canteens, those canteen pouches. If you're getting the ones that had the clip on, they're a canteen slash GP pouch. They do hold. If you could get a saw pouch,
Mm-hmm.
especially like the 200 round ones or the old Alice big 200 round, it's a huge pouch. They hold a
Yeah.
shit ton. Uh, that one's all right. I prefer the LBE, the Alice. I have a heavily modified LBE that holds 10. It held more than that, but the way I made it function where it was the most comfortable and best for me is 10 on, 6 in the butt pack, plus you have the ruck to go over it. And the Molly belt, get the Molly belt. It's worth a little bit of, the 20, 30 extra dollars. You can run an Alice or a Web, any type of belt through it. And it just gives you so much more real estate, and real estate's vital.
Well, another thing, so when you're buying gear, if you don't know exactly what you want, um, you can go to Army surplus stores. You can go to different, like a lot of times there's like history military museums, or not history military, like history military stores, and they'll have all sorts of odds and ends. Another thing about those places is it's a really good place to meet people. Because
Mm-hmm.
like if you're buying LBV and somebody else is buying taps, um, and you're buying LBV to get ready for things getting really rough, they might be buying taps for when things get really rough. And that's another thing, like old Vietnam gear, old Vietnam gear worked. And I would not be afraid to use it, right? Um, and the same thing goes with like rifles. I'm really like I know that we're running out of time here, but I'm really thinking about um going back to a 20-inch AR. Like I really am thinking about going to a 20-inch AR because they work. And I don't plan on kicking doors, right? Because once again, like you don't have the logistical support as the United States military. So if you get hit, like I've been hit in the plates before, and I was taken off the field and sent to a medical check, and they're like, "Yeah, you're good. You can go back." I'm like, "Then why'd you bring me here? Like, the fuck? Like, why am I here?" Um, but really and truly, I don't think people are aware of the lack of logistical support that we're gonna have. Um, so like a 20-inch AR, get in standoff, and then like, sorry, but if there's a meth lab that has to go, bullets go through buildings. You can light that joker up from the outside, and when it pops, because it's a meth lab, um, I actually don't know how meth labs work. I know I'm skinny, but I just I've never I've never been inside one. But yeah, if it explodes or if it catches fire, you're not inside, and then you honestly you save ammo. Um, so I mean, just keep all those things in mind, like, but go use your equipment, right? Before you go buy something new, take what you have, go use it. Um, and don't be afraid to sell gear that doesn't work for you, right? Allow that to be a way to finance figuring out what works for you. That's how I look at it.
Absolutely.
Any
Train,
closing
train,
thoughts?
train, guys.
Yeah.
It's running your stuff. I literally, the LBE, that is my favorite LBE. I literally revamped it, finished it yesterday. And that is like the 16th iteration it's been through because every time I wear it and run in it, I'm like, hey, I don't like the way that fits. I don't like the way that's rubbing. And I make it better and better. You're not going to get it on the first try, and that's fine. Uh, that like my biggest takeaway for final thoughts or whatever for people is you have to get out and train. You have to get out and run what you think you're going to run. Like you said, you don't need 15, 30 rigs. It would be nice maybe once you have the food stored up and you have the ammo stored up and you have your main stuff stored up, then you can get those other rigs, become a warlord, equipped all the people who are going to show up who didn't get ready when you told them to get ready, maybe. But the reality is, you got to make sure that what you're using works for you. Uh, I every time I put on one of my rigs and I run it, that LBE is a great example. I've changed it, I don't know how many times. The split chest rig, I've changed, I don't know how many times. And every time I change it, it gets a little bit better for me. It gets a little bit more comfortable for me. And it gives every time it fixes things that allows me to function better and carry more.
Mm-hmm.
Use your stuff, guys. You got to use your stuff. Otherwise, how are you? You can't just assume I'm going to buy this chest rig. I'm going to buy this micro chest rig, and I'm going to buy this rifle. I'm going to shoot 5 rounds out of it and be like, all right, I'm good. And then just set it in the closet and never touch it again until something pops off. Because whenever you do, and in 2 minutes, you've already went through all 4 of your mags because you had 3 on the micro and 1 in the rifle, and you didn't hit a single thing because you hadn't used it. What are you going to do?
And like, yeah, I mean, you need to get there and use your equipment. But for instance, when I put a plate carrier on, I train again because I know mags are here. If I have a plate carrier on, mags are here. And you go, well, that's, what, an inch and a half, 2 inches. Yeah. Yeah. And at night, under stress, under fire, laying on your stomach, 2 inches is 12 miles.
Yep.
Um,
It's kind of hard to train under fire without actually, being under fire. That's why
mhm,
you see a lot of guys who will go out and they'll run back and forth really quick and then start shooting or whatever.
mhm,
That's actually really great because it's getting your heart pumping, it's get your adrenaline
yeah,
going, and that's the same thing that's going to happen under fire. You might not be running like you are in training, but the same amount of adrenaline and the pumping and the stress is going to have. That's what you need. And like you said, I don't have a plate carrier yet. When I do, I plan on running slick as well, just because I train in the taps, I train in the split, I train in the
mhm,
LBE, my 3 rigs, and I know where everything's at on those rigs. I know how to function on those rigs. and I'm not going to be able to set up my plate carrier the way I set those rigs up. I would rather wear it slick, throw the rig that I'm familiar with over the top of it, and go.
Yeah, I just and we can keep going because we got more time now. But like honestly, if you need plates, you probably need a U-Haul. Like if you need plates when everything goes topsy turvy, um, you need a U-Haul. Like you need to get out of there. I did, and it was an amazing stress reliever. And then I met a beautiful woman and got married. Um, but you need to get on your environment. You need to move around in your environment. Um, and like honestly, I'm in a national park right now. This is legal for me in my state. But if if you come out here and you start hiking and you have all your equipment on like I do, and people are calling the cops, that's something to take note of because that's how they deal with people in this. Now, in this particular state, you can't carry a rifle in a national park. They're gonna assume you're hunting, and I got a feel that they assume you're hunting in the summertime while everyone's hiking. There's gonna be all sorts of issues, but um, if if you go out here and you do that and you get the cops called on you, all of that stuff is intel, right? How are the cops interacting with you? How are the cops interacting with the person that called? Um, you know, I got the cops called on me because I was wearing a yellow PTO belt and a blue PT belt, and some lady was upset because her husband was an army officer, and only army officers are allowed to wear blue PT belts. Like another thing is like don't be afraid to go backwards, right? Like I'm legitimately like, do I want to go 20 inch? Okay, where
I
can I
mean,
find?
everybody's on the whole 13.7, 14.5, and those are great. But, and I'm sure you know, but they were clearing buildings in Iraq and Afghanistan with 20 inches. It can be done. Uh, that, everyone, a lot of people say 16 is a perfect one to start out with. And I like that I'm in that crowd. 16 is a perfect, but 20 is on my list.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Like while we're talking gear, we're gonna upset a bunch of people. If you think things are gonna go really like, I'm, I don't think that North Carolina and South Carolina are gonna be in the same country in a couple of years. Because like if you're not aware, there's a giant political divide right there. Um, if you have night vision, I'm gonna just assume that you either have solar, you're getting solar, or it's a toy. Because when things go cattywampus, if you don't have the ability to keep your food, like your freezer going and your night vision going, I mean, like honestly, if I have night vision, you best assured I've already had solar for a while. Because once again, it's the logistics, right? Logistics play a massive part. Logistics play a massive part in fighting the enemy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Getting your like, how are you? Okay, get a group. Like it's gonna take a while. Get a group, go hike, and then assign somebody an injury, and then get them out with said injury, right? Um, we had to move a guy a mile so that we could land a chopper, and that was hell on earth. And then we had to go back and fight, and it's like, I couldn't imagine having to move a guy 12 miles to the fob, to the fire base, so that we could then do what we had to do. I couldn't imagine that. And so like you have to start game planning this and then practicing. Now, you can do a lot of that in an open field. And you can do a lot of that like um Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama, I all know um you can get basically a fishing license, which is what I have, and you can go onto WMA land, and WMA land typically has 100-yard rifle range. And so now you spent $8 and then $5 a visit um for 100-yard rifle range. That's pretty sweet. Now you're gonna run into some weirdos, and that's fine. You're gonna run into weirdos at indoor ranges too. Um, but get out, like get a rifle. If you already have a rifle, which you probably do, go zero it. Figure out a way to carry ammo. Wear it. Figure out how you're gonna carry more ammo. Do that, and like ammo, water, food, and like in this environment, I don't need a rain jacket. I don't need extra socks because it's not cold. But I'm still going to carry those things because I don't want to be miserable because being comfortable is important. And just think about those things. And then when the weather does get awful, go out and do it some more and figure out how you're going to adjust yourself.
Yeah.
But
If it ain't
I would
raining,
say,
we ain't training.
yeah. And then on top of that, I don't like, I wanted to just ask you a random question. Have you seen the stuff going on in Russia today?
Yeah. Honestly, I've been tracking on that since early yesterday,
Yeah.
um, which I guess it was 5 a.m. their time or something. Um, it's getting heavy, man.
Yeah.
It's
So
getting
if you're
heavy.
today is the 24th of June. We have almost made it out of force. They're forcing their narrative down our throats as far as sexuality. And Russia's decided that there's something called Wagner Group, which is kind of like America's Blackwater. They're the predominant private military company. So all of the dudes that work at Wagner are former Russian army of some sort, right? Some are Spetsnaz, some are just regular infantry, some are clerks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, Yesterday, a bunch of Wagner vehicles were seen near the Kremlin for protesting reasons. Like they were supposedly there to stop a protest. It was may or may not have occurred. And Putin came out early this morning, America time. It's probably late for them. And he's just like, no, I'm the chairman of Wagner is a traitor and he will be dealt with. And you're like, our leadership's not doing too hot. Their leadership's not doing too hot. I'm kind of just waiting for China to do something. Like honestly.
Well, the fact that what's his face went over to China and said we're not uh, we're not with Taiwan having independence or whatever. I'm totally butchering and only paraphrasing what he said, but the fact that we flipped the script over the past couple months on our stance on our presidential stance with Taiwan, we pretty much just gave China the green light to go ahead and do whatever the hell they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, matter of time. We were, you know, everyone has a timeline in their head of what they think and when they think stuff's going to happen. And everyone was saying by 2025, China is going to do whatever. But I mean, when you go ahead and give a country like that the green light by saying that we're now not backing the place that we said we were going to,
Mm-hmm.
man, shit's getting heavy.
Shit's getting real heavy. Which is all the more reason to come out here and do this stuff. Um, and when you do this stuff in a kind of public fashion, like I've had people walk up to me at church and be like, "Hey, what were you doing?" I tell them, and they're like, "Oh." and it was like some old lady. I shouldn't. It was an elderly woman that's a widow, and she's very nice and she's very sweet. I call her old. Um, and then like 2 days later, she called me and goes, "Hey, can you come to the house real quick? Somebody's here." I'm like, "What do you what?" And she's like, "Um, there's a guy." I'm like, "Timeout. I'm on my way." Right, and that builds community. Right, when somebody from church is like, "Hey, the cops aren't showing up fast enough. Can you come?" Like that should mean something to you.
Absolutely.
Um, and so just like be ready to be a force of strength and power and hopefully morality when all this goes up. Because like I wasn't even thinking about what China said, but on my previous video, I was like, 2025, like if we're still here, I'm gonna be shocked. Um, simply because the election and all the stuff that goes along with that. But we've done our closing thoughts, and I'm like, whatever works for you works for you. You just need to use it. Hey, I appreciate this conversation. Put your comments down below, guys. If you want this to happen again, let us know, and it may not. Um, but get all your gear that you have. Put it up. Don't put all of it on because you probably have 30 chest rigs. Put it on. Go hike. Go move with it. Go to a 100-yard range. Lay down. Take some shots. Figure like manipulate what you got to manipulate. Move around what you got to move around, and then continue to use it. And then in the wintertime, put your two hoodies on, put your rain jacket on, put your gear on, and figure out what needs to move around there. And just learn these things before, the blue hats arrive.
Absolutely. Like I always say, guys, you got to stay ready so you don't got to get ready.
That's true. All right. We appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Bye.